There we go.
Okay, so last week we went over Bereshit and Noach, and that was really laying the foundations of the responsibilities. We were discussing Rabbi Sachs's teachings, the responsibilities of mankind, right? Personal, communal responsibilities. Now, Lech Lecha begins with the start of our nation. Who is the founder of our nation? Avraham. But what's very strange is we don't really hear why he was chosen. So famously we know the story, what was the story of Abraham and his father and the idols and Nimrod? What's the famous story? His father had an idol shop, right? And he left Avraham in charge. Avraham broke all the idols, right? He comes back, his father brings him to Nimrod. Nimrod says, either bow down to this idol and reject this crazy monotheistic belief that you have, or I'll throw you into a furnace. And Avraham says, I'm not bowing down. He throws him into a furnace. He comes out alive. He has two brothers. One of his brothers, Haran, was sitting on the fence. What should I do? So he figures, well, if Avraham gets burnt, I'm with Nimrod. If Avraham gets saved, I'm with Avram. Avram gets saved. I'm with Avram, he says. He gets thrown into the furnace and he gets burnt. Right? But is any of this in the Torah itself?
No.
No. Right? The whole hint to it is on page 52. It says, verse of 31, the top line, last word. Vayikach Terach et Avram beno. Terach took Avram his son, and Lot ben Haran, and the Lot, who was the son of his son Haran, ben beno, his grandson, and Sarai Kalato, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, Eshet Avram beno, the wife of Avram, his son, Vayetzu itam Ur Kasdim, and they left from Ur Kasdim. Okay? And also before we mentioned Ur Kasdim. Ur Kasdim is either a name of a place, or Ur could also mean the fire of Kasdim. That's the whole hint to it. So it seems very strange. And now our Parsha begins. Who wants to start off for us in Hebrew, page 54? Marty, you want to take it in Hebrew?
ויאמר השם אל אברהם, לך לך מארצך וממולדתך מבית אביך אל הארץ אשר אראך.
And one more pasuk.
ואראך לגוי גדול, ואברך גדלה שמך והיה ברכה.
Beautiful. Eileen, in English, please.
Hashem said to Abraham, go for yourself from your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house, to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who curses you I will curse, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? Now, he needs to leave it all behind, but he's being told, you become a great nation, bless you, make your name great, you'll be a blessing, the families of the earth will bless themselves through you. Right? Quite a deal. Now, we pointed out before that this is not simply a physical leaving. How do we know that? Because he told him to leave from your land, from your birthplace, from the house of your father. If I'm talking about a physical travel, I'm going to tell you, listen, I need you to leave Irvine. I need you to leave California. I need you to leave the United States. I'm not going to tell you, I need you to leave the United States. I need you to leave California. I need you to leave Irvine. Right? So the order here is reversed. You leave your land, your birthplace, your father's house. You first leave your father's house, then your birthplace, and then your land. So why is it reversed over here?
Well, that's the big.
So if we're talking about location, I first leave, right? I'm going to leave my seat by this desk, then I could leave this room, then I could leave this building. If we're talking about influences,
More attached.
right? So I've got certain influences of being brought up in my house. I have certain New York influences, and I have certain American influences. Which are the most deeply rooted? My home. So therefore, first I could leave and I could become less of an American. Then I could see if I become less of a New Yorker. Right? And then I could see if I could become less of a son of a idol shop proprietor. Right? So we're talking about,
What is that?
I'm sorry?
Idol shop.
His father owned an idol shop. He used to sell idols. That's what Avram's father did professionally. He was a shop owner and sold different idols. So the influence of his father's house, that's the most pervasive. So when we're talking about leaving his influences behind, the order is going to be reversed. And I'll make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and your name will be made great, and you will be a blessing. So the question is, where is this coming from? So we have the Medrash telling the story I told before of him breaking the idols and being willing to give up his life, and actually that's considered to be one of the first tests of Avraham, and he's going to go through 10 different tests as we go through over here. But what are the psukim telling us that he did? So let's go back to Avram's first introduction, and we'll see if that helps us. There are those that say that it does, but to me, I don't hear that it helps us too much. Let's go back to page 51. All right, verse 26, towards the bottom there. That's where we're first introduced to Avram. What happened, right? We're going through the generations between Noach and Avram. That's a 51 from the top. We're going through the generations from Noach down to Avram. The event immediately before that, which we'll come back to soon, on page 49, is the Tower of Babel. Okay? So we have the Tower of Babel, we have all these generations, and then Avram. So Avram seems to be somewhat of a response to the Tower of Babel. What do we hear about Avram? Verse 26. Someone take that first in English? Amy, you want to take that?
When Terah had lived 70 years, he begot Avraham, Nahor, and Haran.
Okay, so 3 brothers, right? 3 brothers, the sons of Terach, Avram, Nahor, and Haran.
The order is he's the firstborn then?
So it seems.
Okay.
Continue, Amy.
Okay. Now these are the chronicles of Terah. Terah begot Avram, Nahor, and Haran, and Haran begot Lot.
Okay, we're going to hear about Lot later on, right? So Lot is Haran's son, Avram's nephew.
Okay. Haran died in the lifetime of Terah, his father, in his native land, in Ur-Kasdim.
And here's where the Medrash latches on. Oh, Haran died in Ur-Kasdim. That was the furnace story that I told you before. Okay, and
Avram and Nahor took themselves wives. The name of Avram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran. So that's the niece, right? The niece. The father of Milcah, and the father of Yitzchak.
okay. Now, the Medrash tells us that Yiscah was another name for Sarah. So who were these 2 wives that Avram and Nahor took? They took the daughters of Haran their nieces, their daughters of Haran. So it comes out that Sarah and Lot were brother-sister.
Yeah.
Okay, they were both the children of Haran. So they took the daughters of Haran as their wives. Okay?
Okay.
Now,
that's weird.
Now, so there is a concept of yibum. Okay? The concept of yibum is if a person dies,
Concept of what?
yibum. Yibum. It happens now, well, it sort of happens nowadays. The Torah law is if a man dies leaving no children, then his wife either marries her brother, the late husband's brother, or
Her brother-in-law.
Hi Judy. Or a ceremony called chalitza is done. Okay? Why in the world is her brother-in-law going to marry her?
To carry on the family.
Okay. Because the pasuk says, in order...
This goes on today, too.
I'll explain in a second. The pasuk says, you don't have to take my word for it, lahakim la'achiv shem. Because we want to establish a name for the brother. Meaning, if a person dies without children, then there is no spiritual continuity that they have.
There's no direct lineage.
Correct. There's no spiritual continuity. This will give the spiritual continuity that the child will become, right, will establish the name of the father. He's considered the spiritual progeny of the late husband. If they don't want to do it, they do a process called chalitza, which is removing of the shoe, right, and spitting. What is going on? Well, the shoe represents, in a Kabbalistic way, the shoe represents the shoe is considered to be, the body is considered to be the shoe of the soul. Right? The lowest part of the soul is in the body. By taking off the shoe, that represents that the soul has no body to go into. So the process of her taking off the shoe shows that what you are doing is you're giving no continuity to your late brother. And when you see that, when you see someone showing complete disregard for someone else, what do you feel? Disgust. What does one do when one feels disgust? Spit.
Oh, okay.
But the whole thing of Yibum was to establish a name for the late brother. Now, nowadays, okay, the Gemara says if you're doing Yibum, not to establish a name for your brother, but because you like your sister-in-law, she's a great woman, right? That is problematic. Okay? So, and nowadays we would say, look, if there's a single brother-in-law, right, and his brother dies, right, and she was a great, they were very close as brother and sister, and now the brother died. Look, it happens that a person, right, the common thing, that a person, if a man's wife dies, they'll sometimes marry the sister, right? That can happen. Certainly by the Holocaust, that, when people lost people, that was a common thing that happened. So it's not so bizarre, but we would only encourage such a union if they really like each other. Right? But you're supposed to do it just for the mitzvah. So nowadays we don't, in a case where a man dies, leaving no children, and he was married, and he has brothers, that wife will have chalitza done in a Beit Din. In order to, chalitza is that process of the shoe and the spitting, right, to release her. What do I want from this, though? So there, David Foreman, in one of his tapes, says that, we see what's great about Avram right here. What's great about Avram right here He's concerned about who? His brother, Haran. We need to give continuity to my late brother. So he's doing this quasi-yibum. Now remember, what was the problem when we came? Look back to page 49 for a minute. The Tower of Babel. What was their whole thing? Verse 4. Chapter 11, verse 4. Come, let us build us a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves.
And that's the problem.
So we see what's special about Avram. He's not looking to make a name for himself. Who's he looking to make a name for? His brother. So, in this tape, right, it was argued, so that's what was great about Avram. The problem that I have with that is, so then why did God speak to Avram?
And say, leave your family.
Right? And not to Nahor. Right? His brother Nahor did the same thing. They both married the daughters of Haran. Right? So leaving the family means leaving the influences, we said, Amy, right? It doesn't mean, right, because his father's going to travel with him, but it means leaving those influences behind, right? And starting on a whole new path. Yes, Dov?
Could it also be the wife that he picked? That's why Hashem targeted him.
Perhaps.
It
Perhaps.
could
So let's go. So we see right away that Avram is not worried about his own shame.
No.
Who's he worried about? God's name. Right? I'm sorry, about his brother, the other's name.
be. The other.
Right? Not about himself. Right? Bavel wanted to make themselves a tower. He wants to do, he's worrying about others. But again, why then only him and not his brother Nahor, who did the same thing? They both married. Let's go a little bit further.
Why not him? Because Hashem told him.
Right, but we want to know, why did Hashem tell him? And we can't say that Hashem told him because he was concerned about Haran, because if that were the case, then Hashem should have told him and his brother Nahor. They both showed that care for the other. Now, yes?
If a woman's husband died, but she has children, then she cannot marry the brothers?
Does she have children from a previous marriage?
From the brother.
If a woman married, have children, but her husband died, she cannot.
She cannot marry the brother.
Okay.
The brother is one of those
She has to have a-
relative relations that is forever prohibited. That's the strange thing about Yibum, that it's a situation that either it's absolutely prohibited or it's a mitzvah. Right? If there are children, absolutely prohibited.
Because
Right? Because of relative, all those things.
Even girl children?
Yes. Yes.
Hey,
Yes. Any child at all.
So there
Okay.
must be something
Now,
else.
let's see over here. Let's another thing before we turn to, on page 52. So Terach took Avraham, verse 31. Terach took his son Avraham, his son, Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, Sarai, his daughter-in-law, the wife of Avram, his son, and he went out with them from Ur Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. Vayavo ad Haran. So they're going to the land of Canaan. Canaan is what's present-day Israel. That was known as this land of spirituality. They went as far as Haran, Vayeshvu Sham, they settled there, and Terach's life was 205, sorry. Vayamat Terach becharan. And Terach died there in Haran.
Okay.
He started the process to go there,
And then
got distracted, stopped along the way, and died there. Hashem tells Avram, leave all this to go to the land that I will show you. Okay? And Avram took all that with him. Turn to page 56 for a minute. Vayetzu lalechet, top verse there. Vayetzu lalechet arza Canaan. Vayavo arza Canaan. They left in order to go to the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. Okay, so right there we see following through on it, right? We all have these great plans, great intentions, right? And then inevitably there are so many things that come along the way that cause some interference and cause some delays, and we can get sidetracked. And greatness is when one keeps their eye on the goal. Right? So he left Canaan to go to Canaan, and he came to Canaan. Va'kanani az ba'aretz, and the Canaanites were then in the land. Okay, so now for the first time, Vayera Hashem el Avram, Pasuk Zayin, verse 7 on 56-57. Now God appears to Avram. Vayomer, and he says, Lizaracha etain et haaretz hazot. To your descendants I will give this land. And what did Avram do? Vayiven sham mizbeach lashem hanira elav. He built there an altar to God who had appeared to him. He's thanking God for these two monumental messages that God had given him. What are the two monumental messages? To your children I will give this land. A, he will have, and B, they will receive this land. So Rashi brings from the Medrash on the news about the children and the news about the land of Israel. So he built this altar. And then what does he do? He leaves. Vayatek misham hahara. Right? This is Pasuk Chet, 8. And he relocated from there, Hahara, to the mountain. Mikedem, east of Beit El, Vayet Ahalo, and he pitched a tent. Beit El Miyam, Beit El was on the west, Ha'ai, the city of Ai, was on the east, Vayiven Sham Mizbeach LaHashem, and he built there also a Mizbeach to Hashem. Vayikra B'Shem Hashem, and he called out in the name of Hashem. Vayisa Avram Haloch V'Nason Negba, then he kept traveling, right, towards the south. Right, so we have a bit of a travelogue of Avraham. Right, you know, he's going to post his trip notes, so if we want to go there, we'll know also which hotels to stay, you know, how to best use our points, right? You know, he's posting his trip notes over here, right? And then there's a famine in the land. So what are these psukim perhaps telling us about Avraham? Right? It seems to be nondescript. Rabbi Foreman has, again, a very, very beautiful, beautiful parallel that he draws here. Again, we said before, the major event before Avraham was the Tower of Babel. Let's keep our hand to here on page 56, 57, and let's at the same time go back to 48, 49. And let's see the similarities, the parallels, and the differences in these verses.
He was always thinking about other people.
So let's hear. Right? Vayihi, let's starting on page 48, 49. The whole earth was of one language and one common purpose. Vayihi ben Nasam mikedem. And it was when they traveled mikedem. Interesting. Pasuk 8, where did Avram go from? Vayitek misham hahara mikedem. So they're both traveling mikedem. Back to Babel, Vayimtzu'u bik'ah be'eretz Shinar. And they found a bik'ah. They found a valley there in the land of Shinar. Vayeshvu sham.
East.
And what do they do there? Vayeshvu sham. They settled there. Right? What did Avram do back on 56 when he got there? He journeyed, and then what did he do? Doesn't say Vayeshev sham, that he settled there. What does it say that he did?
Journey.
Vayet ahalo. What did he do?
Journey.
He pitched a tent.
Oh,
What's the difference between settling and pitching a tent?
temporary.
Temporary
Yeah.
and permanent. Vayeshvu sham is we're here. This is our place. Vayet ahalo, he pitched his tent, means I'm passing by. Famous story of the Chafetz Chaim, the great Torah sage, lived in Radin in Poland. The Mishnah Brura that we have today, which is really what we use for our day-to-day halachot, written by the Chafetz Chaim. It's his notes on the Shulchan Aruch, on the Code of Jewish Law. Famous story. So he was a world-renowned Torah sage. There was a wealthy businessman who was passing through Poland, and he came to the town of Radin. So he wanted to meet, this is in Reader's Digest, so he wanted to meet the great rabbi, the Chafetz Chaim, as they say there, H&H, the Chafetz Chaim. And he knocks on the door, the Chafetz Chaim opens the door, welcomes him in, and the person is shocked. The house is threadbare. There's maybe a few chairs, tables, and bookcase. And he says to him in shock, Rabbi, where is your furniture? And the great sage looked at him and said to him, where is your furniture? And he answered, my furniture, I'm only passing through. And the great sage nodded wisely. Yes, I'm only passing through. So over there, what do? Vayeshvu sham. They settled there. What did Avram do? Vayet ahalo. He pitched his tent. And then what did they do when they settled there? Vayomu, for Pasuk Gimel, Vayomu Isha Re'eu, when each man said to his friend, Hava nilbun aleveinim, let us make bricks. Mizvah Sefer, we'll do the burning, the cooking that we need to do there. They have the bricks, they have the concrete, right? The exact opposite of a tent.
Yeah.
Right? This is permanence. Vayomer, they said, Hava nivle lanu ir umigdal. What did they want to build over there? A city and a tower. Why are they building this tower? We'll soon see. What does Avram do? Back to our pasuk. He pitched his tent. Beit El to the west, Ai to the east. Vayiven sham. Oh, they want to build, and he wants to build. What does he build there? Vayiven sham mizbeach laHashem. They're each building things that are going to be serving. Avram builds an altar. What is he serving? Hashem. They are building a tower, a city. What are they building? Who are they serving? Themselves. Right? Some people put their names on the tower. Do you believe that? Have you ever Trump Tower?
Yeah.
Right? Right? Some people put their names on their towers. Right? That's what they were building. This was their way. Right? There had been... What was the event that preceded the Tower of Babel?
Flood.
The flood. Right? The flood meant we are transient. We are at the mercy. So what do we need to do? We need to dig in. We need to establish ourselves. We need to fortify ourselves, to fight against God, to establish whatever it is. This is nothing. This is serving as a buffer between us and God. We mentioned last week when we discussed this. Bavel was using our technology. Then it was pretty sad technology, but it was using their technology to protect them against God's designs. Right? We will protect ourselves. Like the Titanic we mentioned. The ship that they promote as the ship that even God can't sink it.
Yeah, right.
Right? So this was their refuge. This was their service to themselves, to their prowess, to their technological advances. All about shunning, cutting themselves off, separating themselves from God. What's Avram about? Building a Mizbeach. Let's go further.
What's that?
An altar, sorry. Building the altar. Right? Just 1 second, Dove. Now, why were they building this tower? Let's go further, and again, back to 48, 49, verse 4. And they said, come, let us build for ourselves a city, umigdal, and a tower, v'rosho b'shamayim, and its head will reach up to the heavens, v'na'aseh lanu shame. And what will we do? Make for ourselves a name. What is back to Avram? What does he do? Vayiven sham mizbeach laHashem. He built there an altar to Hashem, and vayikra b'shem Hashem. And he called out in the name of Hashem, of God. So they want to make for themselves a name. What does Avram want to do? Make a name for Hashem. Right? I'm an emissary. I'm on a mission. That's what I am about. I am about making a name for Hashem. Let's go back to the beginning of Lech Lecha. Turn back one page now, 54. What did God say to him? Verse 2. Ve'escha, I'll make you into a great nation. Va'avarechecha, and I will bless you. Va'agadla shemecha. God said, what will I do?
Make your name great.
I'll make your name great. Va'avarcham ve'yibracha, you'll be a blessing. Va'avarcham va'avarechecha, I will bless those who bless you. V'kalelcha, those who curse you are or I will curse. V'nivrechu v'cha, and all the families of the land will bless themselves by you. Rashi says, the simple meaning is, a person would give a blessing to his son. What will the blessing be? You should be like Avraham. You should be like Avraham. So God is saying, I'm going to make your name great. Avram says, I'm going to make your name great. Right? I will use the blessing you're giving me to make your name great. Let's go to the bottom of that page now. Avram took Sarai, his wife, Lot, and all Rechusham, all their property. Vet hanefesh asher asu b'charan, and the souls they had made in Haran. What are the souls they made in Haran? Rashi says they were those that they had brought underneath the wings of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence. Avram was teaching about God to the men. Sarai was teaching about God to the women. And the Pasuk considers it Ki'ilu asaum, as if they made them, as if they had created them. Avram and Sarah had made these people. So Avram and Sarai, his partner, are all about making God's name great. So that is a beautiful parallel, again, the Rabbi Foreman's beautiful parallel of the wording there, back to contrasting it to Bavel, what they were about, and the remedy, the antidote, was Avraham. And we carry on that same mission. And we call that Kiddush Hashem. What's Kiddush Hashem? Sanctifying God's name. Realizing, as we see in the world, right, if we do something bad, right, the fact that we're Jewish always makes its way into the news. Right? During the time of Bernie Madoff, right? At that time, there was also a governor in, who was it? There was a governor. Was it Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, right around there, who also did something pretty egregious, right?
Oh, Illinois.
Illinois. Was it Bakarovich? It was, yeah, I forget.
He was convicted though and went to jail.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Donovich or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What religion was he?
That's true. But it did make lots of headlines.
He wasn't-
I know. That's exactly my point.
You're right. Nothing.
What religion was he?
No, never mentioned.
We don't-
What religion was Madoff? In every article, you have the Jewish philanthropists 10, 15, 20 times. There was never any doubt, right? Following the news, you had no doubt what religion he was. It was headlines. It was all over the news. What religion was he? I don't know. Why is that?
We always linked.
So you want to say anti-Semitism? I don't know if it's that. But I think it certainly is a certain expectation.
Expectation, yeah.
Israel is held, and this is one of the three D's, right? Then you know it's a problem. It's demonization, delegitimization, and double standards, right? When is there fair criticism of Israel? Every country can have fair criticism leveled against it. But once you have any one of the three Ds, the demonization, they're Nazis, the delegitimization, only this national aspiration for nationhood is racist, it can't be allowed. Anyone else could have their aspirations for nationhood. Delegitimization and double standard. Expecting them to do things that no one else does. Right? You know, when there are grenades being lobbed across a border, across a fence, that would not be called a protest elsewhere. But it's the Gaza protests. Right? And protesters were shot. Now, if someone's lobbing grenades and the police or the army shoot, they would not say a protester was shot. Right? Those are the three. So there is this expectation of us being on a higher standard. Now, it's not fair for the world to demand that from us, but we should demand it from ourselves. Famous story in the Gemara, I think it's from Shimon ben Dosa, I forget exactly which sage it was, who bought a donkey. Right? And on the neck of this donkey, they found that there was this necklace with this precious gem. And he quickly sent it back to the owner, who didn't know where it was and thought it was lost and gone. Right? And he said, I bought a donkey, I did not buy a gem. And this person said, blessed is the God of Shimon ben Shetach, I think it was. Right? It wasn't just thank you, right? But it's thank you and the God of you. Right? And we need to realize that we have we carry on this mission of Avraham, which is Va'agadla Shemecha, to make God's name make God great again, to make God's name great, right? And to act in a way that people see us and say, oh, that's how a Jewish person acts. That is the way that we are supposed to act. That is the mission that we take. All the families of the land throughout all time. That is the mission that we have. And Israel actually is incredible. That whenever there is a crisis anywhere in the world, we have experts in all of these crises because we've been under threat of battle and terrorism ever since we began. And we have expertise in getting people out of rubble, right? In setting up field hospitals, right? In Haiti, you have a lot of people who are named Israel now. A lot of children who are named Israel, right? After that earthquake there, and Israel was one of the first one to set up CNN reporters. It usually doesn't get reported so quickly. Israel was the first one to set up this whole field hospital, and babies were being born there and being named Israel. Yeah.
So, given that Avraham and Sarai made these souls, how did it evolve that proselytization is discouraged?
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if we're supposed to emulate Avraham, as you said.
okay. So, there is teaching people about God, and we are supposed to do that even today. We are supposed to be serving as an example and teaching people about God, right? And the monotheistic religions, right? Well, Christianity had a Jewish founder, of course, right? Right, it's an offshoot of Judaism. And Islam quotes, the Quran quotes Musa, Moses, right? And the Bible throughout. So we are meant to be the ones who are teaching the world about God. About actually becoming Jewish. So that is, once the Torah was given, that is a very serious responsibility. And therefore, we want to make sure that a person is going to step up to those responsibilities properly, and therefore there is this discouraging. But he wasn't making anyone Jewish, right? He wasn't Jewish. Where does the word Jew come from? Where does the word Jew come from? Yehuda, right? Who was Yehuda? Avram's great grandson, right? And even then, right, Judaism as we know it in terms of Torah was at Mount Sinai, by the Exodus, Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt, and standing at Mount Sinai. So the fact that he was teaching people about God and bringing them under the wings of the Shekhinah is no contradiction whatsoever to what we do.
But today, if we were someone who was...
We are supposed to teach people about God.
Right. If someone set up a meetup, say, and said...
Set up a what?
A meetup group.
Yeah, that's like...
Meet-up group.
A meet-up group, sorry.
And said, the topic is going to be
God.
discussion of God. Well, as we're saying, for Kiddush Hashem, we would have to talk about God from the Jewish perspective, wouldn't we? Otherwise, we would be desecrating Hashem.
Of course.
So...
We talk about God from a Jewish perspective, of course.
So anyone who
I'm not trying to make them, I'm not
trying.
trying to convert them to Judaism. I'm trying to teach them the concept of God.
Okay, but by that they would hear only.
They're showing up too. They're showing up. They want it.
Yeah, I should teach them about a true God.
Okay.
A God being one,
So, but that's
not being corporeal, not having a body, never having had a body.
Okay, so that wouldn't.
A God who loves kindness and justice. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
That wouldn't be considered a first stage of proselytization.
No.
Classes like that.
No, and if someone then would decide that they want to take on the full responsibilities, that's their prerogative.
So, given the ease of things like that, are we now more obligated to do things like that?
You know, there are those that say that in order to fulfill our mission as a light unto nations, we should be out there teaching the Sheva Mitzvot, the 7 Noahide Mitzvot. There's some groups that do. Mainstream that hasn't taken on so mainstream. And our light until nations, the way we interpret it is mostly to live as upright, honest, right, lofty human beings, Jewish human beings, and that way we serve as an inspiration. I've said over and over, walking around with my kippah here in Irvine, I am a minority. There aren't all that many of us who walk around with their kippahs here in Irvine, and I feel a very strong. Heavy has a negative connotation. A very strong responsibility to not leave my cart where someone else can't pull into a parking spot. Because not just some guy did, but the guy with that Jewish head covering left the cart, and now I can't. Now I got to get out of my car and move the cart in order to get back in order to park here, right? Or to make sure to encourage people, if I've got a cart full of things, to let other people, please go ahead. It's just, I feel a very strong responsibility, and that's meant to